Let's talk a little bit about the market planning steps and the overall marketing plan format. Of course, we talk about the planning steps. We talked about it previously when we said that it's really all about answering three questions. Where am I? Where do I want to be? And how do I get there? Well, most planning books and planning seminars will talk about more steps than just those three steps. And so let's look at what the typical planning steps include. First, you might update the facts about the past, especially if you are doing a marketing plan for an existing product rather than a new product. You will probably collect background information. That's all part of the situation analysis. You'll then analyze that historical and background data. You will next go through the process of developing goals and objectives, followed by strategies and action plans. You're probably also going to want to include pro forma financials, that is, profit and loss statements, maybe balance sheets, those sorts of things, where you expect to be after the marketing plan is executed versus before. You're going to want to develop controls, and you're going to want to measure the results and audit the plan to see where you're at. All right, so the keys to planning: knowledge of the market, customers, and the competition, understanding the organization's core competencies, maintaining vigilance in terms of making sure that the data you have is accurate and complete. Another key to planning is to monitor, forecast, and then adapt. When the plan is being executed, we are going to want to make sure that we are hitting our goals and objectives, our intermediate goals and objectives. If not, we're going to want to make some adaptations to the existing plan to see if we can hit them going forward. Focus on relationships, especially in terms of who can help with the market planning process, who has information that we need, and who has the ability to see the overall picture rather than simply each individual small picture. Try to involve everyone in the planning process. I'm a big believer in that, of course. Finally, set controls early. You have objectives, you set standards, and develop specific quantitative analytics to measure performance. You then measure that performance, you diagnose the results, and you take action if needed. Especially with new data technologies available, measurement is easier than it ever has been. In many cases, your organization might even have a dashboard already designed. Just make sure you know what you're measuring and what that is telling you about the execution of the marketing plan. Typical marketing plan includes situation analysis. Of course, we talked about this before. An internal analysis, an industry analysis, a competitive analysis, a customer analysis, and a macro environmental analysis. Now, there's always a little bit of a question of which should I do first, the internal analysis or the industry analysis. My argument is that if you are familiar with the organization and it's an ongoing marketing plan for an ongoing product or an ongoing organization, I would start with the internal analysis. But if I am someone who's not familiar with the internal aspects of the organization, for instance, I'm an outside consultant coming in to do a marketing plan for someone, then I would start with the industry analysis and move to the internal analysis second. The reason for that is that understanding the industry is crucial in being able to evaluate the internal aspect of the organization. Now, if you're involved in that industry for a long period of time, it is more of an updating rather than a brand new investigation. The result of the situation analysis is, of course, the SWOT, where we identify the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and the opportunities and threats posed by the industry, the customers, the competition, and the macro environment. We also want to look at any issues, whether they're industry issues or firm-specific issues or competitor issues that might influence our future success. Then, of course, we move on to the goals and objectives. And, of course, we want to make sure that those goals and objectives are smart goals and objectives. They might be financial objectives, and they might be marketing objectives. Then we move on to the actual marketing strategy. We typically like to start with the strategic overview. That is the overall strategy that we have in mind. And the overall strategy might be in terms of positioning. It might be in terms of product line, it might be in terms of pricing, it might be in terms of distribution or promotion. It also might be in terms of course, the target market. And then, of course, the last aspect of it would be the specific activities associated with the plan. That is, we have an overall strategy. What are the actual action programs? This is the nuts and bolts of the marketing plan. What, where, when, and how much. That is, what are we going to do? When are we going to do it? Where will it take place? And how much of that are we going to do? So it might be an action plan, might have to do with social media activities. It might have to do with new product development. It might have to do with pricing. All right. And then, of course, we need the pro formas, the projected profit and loss statements. And then we need to make sure that we have controls in place. That is, we have the analytics and the metrics in place to identify whether or not we are on course to meet our goals and objectives. Remember, fail to plan, plan to fail.